This is also a time of change for my family.
Buckingham Palace had not known real peace since King Charles took the throne, but this time the danger came from inside the royal circle itself, Queen Camilla. Everything changed after Charles secretly met with a former trusted aide of Queen Elizabeth II. The woman handed him a sealed envelope containing a hidden agreement signed years earlier. According to the document, Camilla had agreed not to interfere with the royal line of succession or build influence inside the palace. But now, Charles feared she was breaking that promise. Loyal staff members connected to Queen Elizabeth were quietly disappearing. Private meetings were happening behind closed doors, and a powerful inner circle seemed to be forming around Camilla. 2 weeks ago, during a violent storm in London, a woman in her 60s suddenly appeared outside Buckingham Palace soaked from head to toe. Gripping the palace gates, she shouted into the rain, "Let me in! I have information about Queen Camilla. This concerns the future of the royal family." Guards rushed toward her as she refused to back down. "I'm Margaret Thompson," she cried. "I served Queen Elizabeth for 12 years. Camilla has violated a secret agreement." The guards hesitated, and within minutes Charles's personal aide was called. After hearing her claims, the aide reportedly turned pale and brought her inside through a side entrance. Upstairs in his private study, King Charles sat beneath the dim glow of a desk lamp when Margaret entered carrying an old yellow envelope. Her voice trembled as she explained that before Queen Elizabeth passed away, she gave strict instructions. "If Camilla ever begins to act, deliver this to Charles." Inside was a typed agreement signed by Camilla Parker Bowles before becoming queen. Charles read the words slowly. Camilla allegedly pledged not to interfere with succession matters, not to build her own faction, and not to control palace operations or finances. Margaret claimed Queen Elizabeth feared Camilla would eventually seek more influence than promised. Charles sat frozen, gripping the document tightly. The woman he had defended for decades was now at the center of claims threatening the monarchy itself. Margaret warned him directly. "If this continues, the royal family may no longer belong to the Windsors. It will belong to Camilla." After that night, Charles reportedly became distant and deeply suspicious. In public, he still smiled, but behind palace walls he quietly monitored everything around him. His concern exploded after overhearing staff discussing sudden palace replacements. Several longtime employees loyal to Queen Elizabeth had allegedly been pushed out and replaced by people connected to Camilla's circle. Charles demanded personnel records and was shocked by what he saw. More than 20 important positions had changed hands in only a few months. During a private dinner, he confronted Camilla carefully about the staffing shakeups. Camilla calmly replied that the monarchy needed fresh thinking for a new reign. But Charles's suspicions only grew stronger. He later reviewed internal schedules and reportedly discovered secret meetings taking place whenever he traveled away from London. Camilla's name never officially appeared, yet many major palace decisions seemed linked back to her network. One name kept appearing repeatedly in records, her assistant Rebecca, who allegedly coordinated much of the activity behind the scenes. Charles understood immediately this was no coincidence. Everything happening inside Buckingham Palace looked organized, controlled, almost like a hidden system built quietly behind the scenes. Late that night, Charles sat alone in his private library holding a glass of whiskey, his eyes red from stress and exhaustion. Under his breath he muttered, "Mother saw through her long ago." He now believed Queen Elizabeth forced Camilla to sign that agreement because she feared exactly this moment. The feeling of betrayal crushed him. The woman he had defended for decades, the woman he sacrificed everything for, was now allegedly reaching for the same power his mother spent her entire life protecting. Charles gripped the glass so tightly his knuckles turned pale. He feared Camilla no longer wanted to stand quietly beside the throne. She wanted influence, control, real authority inside the monarchy itself. If he failed to stop it, Charles feared the future of William, Catherine, and the entire House of Windsor could slowly fall into the hands of someone driven by ambition. His thoughts drifted back to spring 2005, shortly after his marriage to Camilla. Windsor Castle smelled of fresh flowers that afternoon, but inside one small private room, tension filled the air. Queen Elizabeth II, already 79 years old but still sharp and commanding, had summoned Camilla alone. No staff, no advisors. Just the two women sitting across from each other overlooking the gardens. Elizabeth's voice remained calm but firm. "Camilla, today you must sign this document. This is a commitment to the crown." Camilla sat stiffly in her chair, trying to maintain her composed smile while nervousness built inside her. On the table rested the agreement itself. The document clearly stated that Camilla would not interfere in succession matters, create palace factions, control royal finances, or influence the machinery of the monarchy. Her role would remain ceremonial beside Charles. Camilla quietly replied, "I only want to stand beside Charles." But Elizabeth stared directly into her eyes and answered, "The throne is not a place for personal ambition. William is the heir. Sign it." A moment later, Camilla signed the paper, the scratch of the pen cutting through the silence. But deep down, according to palace whispers, Camilla never intended to remain limited forever. Publicly, she became the loyal wife smiling through years of criticism and scandal. Privately, though, she allegedly feared that once William became king, she would be pushed aside and forgotten completely. That fear reportedly exploded into action months earlier. Camilla allegedly began building influence step by step inside palace operations. Trusted people slowly entered the communications department while longtime Elizabeth-era advisors lost power and authority. Important meetings and royal schedules reportedly started flowing through Camilla's trusted assistant, Rebecca. Camilla rarely appeared directly connected to major decisions. Instead, she stayed in the background while others handled things publicly. According to insiders, that was exactly how she wanted it. Quiet influence without public blame. In one alleged late-night conversation with Rebecca, Camilla reportedly whispered, "I have waited too long. I will not be discarded like old furniture." She believed Queen Elizabeth's agreement had become meaningless after the monarch's death, but Camilla allegedly made one massive mistake. Margaret Thompson, Queen Elizabeth's fiercely loyal former secretary, never forgot the late Queen's final instructions. On that stormy night, she brought the agreement straight to King Charles and shattered the silence surrounding the entire situation. Back in the present, Charles knew suspicion and an old document alone would never be enough. He needed undeniable proof. There was only one man he still trusted completely: Sir Robert Harrington, Queen Elizabeth's former top advisor. The next evening, Charles secretly contacted him using a private phone line away from palace staff. "Robert, I need you. No one can know about this, not even Camilla," Charles reportedly said in a low, serious voice. Sir Robert asked no questions. Just 2 hours later, he quietly entered Buckingham Palace through a hidden side entrance. Deep beneath the palace, inside what had once been Queen Elizabeth's secure private office, the two men prepared to uncover the truth behind the growing royal crisis. Charles handed Sir Robert the agreement and explained everything that had happened inside Buckingham Palace. His voice was low but serious. "Help me investigate. I need to know exactly what Camilla has been doing these past few months." Sir Robert accepted immediately, his expression turning grim. From that moment on, the investigation moved quietly through palace walls like a storm nobody could see coming. Over the next several days, Sir Robert used his old connections to access personnel files, private meeting records, assistant schedules, and internal communications. At the same time, Charles secretly summoned trusted advisors one by one for private conversations with no official records attached. What they revealed shook him deeply. Many former Elizabeth-era advisors were terrified to speak at first, but once Charles showed pieces of evidence, the silence began to crack. One former chief of staff, Mr. Jeffrey, reportedly trembled during his meeting with the king. "Queen Camilla met with me privately several times," he admitted. "She asked for my support in expanding influence over royal funds and charities. She promised my position would remain protected even after Prince William becomes king." Charles sat frozen while listening. On the outside, he stayed calm, but inside, every confession felt like another knife to the heart. Sir Robert soon uncovered even more troubling information. According to internal records, Camilla had allegedly held secret discussions with over 17 advisors and financial managers during the past 6 months. Her name rarely appeared in official documents, but her assistant Rebecca repeatedly surfaced in meeting records connected to major decisions. Through trusted allies, changes were allegedly proposed involving palace finances, staffing control, media influence, and management of royal charities. Supporters were reportedly promised protection, influence, and powerful positions in return for loyalty. To Charles, this no longer looked like small internal politics. It looked like a full power structure quietly forming behind palace walls. Sir Robert eventually delivered a thick dossier directly to the king late one evening. His voice carried deep concern. "Your Majesty, this is no longer a suspicion. This appears to be a coordinated attempt to reshape influence within the monarchy." Charles remained silent after hearing the words. No anger, no shouting. just pain written across his face. The woman he had defended for years was now at the center of a growing palace crisis, threatening not only him, but also the future of William and the royal family itself. He stepped onto the balcony, overlooking the dark palace gardens, as cold winds swept through the night air. The investigation was complete. The evidence was finally in front of him. Now only one thing remained: confronting Camilla directly. But Charles knew this would not be a calm conversation. Camilla, meanwhile, had already sensed the shift happening around her. Within 48 hours of Margaret Thompson's arrival, she reportedly realized something had changed. Charles no longer looked at her the same way during breakfast. His eyes had become distant, cautious, almost cold. Then whispers began spreading through the palace that Margaret had secretly met with the king. Camilla allegedly understood immediately that the 2005 agreement had resurfaced. That night at Clarence's house, she reportedly sat awake inside her private room, furious and shaken. Under the glow of a lamp, rage slowly overtook her composure. Clenching her fists, she reportedly muttered, "Does Charles think he can simply erase me after everything I sacrificed?" According to palace insiders, Camilla acted immediately. At 2 a.m., she summoned Rebecca and allegedly ordered a complete internal shakeup. "Make a list of everyone still loyal to Charles," she reportedly demanded. "Replace them all. No warnings. By tomorrow morning, they must be gone." Rebecca hesitated briefly, warning that sudden changes could create chaos inside the palace. But Camilla reportedly cut her off instantly. "Anyone not standing with me will be removed," she said coldly. "This new reign demands loyalty." Before sunrise, orders allegedly spread throughout the palace. Senior advisors connected to Charles were quietly reassigned, pushed into retirement, or removed from sensitive positions without explanation. Some reportedly had phones disconnected while others were escorted away by security staff. But Camilla allegedly went even further. The next morning, she gathered palace staff for an emergency meeting. Dressed in dark clothing and speaking with sharp authority, she delivered a chilling warning. "Anyone contacting the opposing side, meeting Sir Robert, or maintaining ties to Elizabeth's old circle will be dismissed immediately. I will show no mercy to disloyalty." The room reportedly fell silent. Staff members lowered their heads while tension spread across the meeting hall. Fear filled the air, but beneath that fear, quiet anger was beginning to grow. Camilla believed she had regained control of the palace, but the real battle inside Buckingham Palace was only beginning. Camilla believed that by removing threats quickly, Charles would never have time to fight back. But she made one massive mistake. She underestimated how far the king had already gone behind the scenes. What Camilla did not know was that many of the advisors she ordered removed had already secretly spoken with Charles days earlier. Instead of staying loyal to her, they quietly turned against her. That very night, several advisors reportedly met privately with the king and handed over everything they had: emails, private notes, internal documents, and even recordings connected to Rebecca and Camilla's inner circle. Some allegedly revealed conversations where promises of power, protection, and future influence were discussed openly. The people Camilla believed she controlled had now become the very witnesses capable of destroying her entire operation. While she celebrated what she thought was victory, Charles was quietly building a case powerful enough to collapse her network completely. The storm inside Buckingham Palace was no longer approaching, it had officially arrived. That evening, tension filled the private dining room inside Buckingham Palace. Beneath the sparkling chandelier, only Charles and Camilla sat across from one another. Charles looked exhausted but determined, dressed in a dark suit with a face hardened by weeks of betrayal. Camilla entered elegant as always, but the smile on her face faded almost instantly when she saw his expression. Dinner began in silence before Charles finally spoke. His tone sounded calm, but there was something cold underneath it. "Camilla, you've been meeting with quite a few advisors recently, haven't you? Rebecca also seems very busy arranging private meetings for you." Camilla slowly placed down her silverware and looked directly at him with controlled surprise. A faint smile crossed her face, but her eyes remained icy. "Charles, who have you been listening to?" she replied softly. "I only support you. You're overwhelmed with the new reign, so I simply help manage things behind the scenes. After all these years, you suddenly don't trust me?" Her voice carried frustration mixed with hurt. Then suddenly she stood up from the table. "Or maybe you're listening to those old advisors again. They hated me from the day I entered this family. They've always wanted to divide us." Charles remained silent for several long seconds. The pain in his eyes was impossible to hide now. Finally, he rose slowly from his chair and spoke in a low voice that felt heavier than anger itself. "You think I know nothing?" At that moment, an aide quietly entered the room carrying a thick dossier and a small recording device. Charles pressed a button. Rebecca's voice filled the room first, followed by Camilla's voice from alleged private conversations. "I will guarantee your positions if you support me remaining at the center after William ascends the throne." The color reportedly drained from Camilla's face instantly. She stumbled backward and grabbed the chair beside her for balance. "That's fabricated," she shouted. "Who would record private conversations? Charles, are you really using fake evidence against your own wife?" But Charles did not raise his voice. Calmly, he opened the dossier and slid several pages toward her across the table. "These are signed statements from 14 advisors," he said heavily. "Dates, internal communications, financial discussions, all of it." His voice grew colder with every word. "You violated the agreement my mother forced you to sign in 2005. You built factions, manipulated personnel, controlled influence around palace finances, and offered privileges in exchange for loyalty." Then came the line that reportedly shattered the room completely. "You turned this palace into your own kingdom." Camilla's composure finally cracked. Her voice trembled between panic and fury. "I did this for us, for the monarchy," she cried. "William is inexperienced. Catherine is not ready for what's coming. I know how to protect this institution. Charles, you cannot do this to me. I am the queen." Charles looked directly into her eyes, emotion breaking through his calm exterior. "No," he answered quietly. "You did it for yourself. My mother saw through this back in 2005. He paused before continuing. "I will not make this public because the monarchy cannot survive another major scandal, but your entire network ends tonight." Camilla stared at him in disbelief as Charles continued delivering his decision. The loyal advisors connected to Queen Elizabeth's era would immediately return. Rebecca and Camilla's inner circle would be removed from sensitive roles. According to palace insiders, Charles also warned that private discussions would begin regarding Camilla's future royal responsibilities, while Catherine would gradually take a larger role in official appearances. For the first time, Charles reportedly saw genuine fear in Camilla's eyes. Tears streamed down her face as she shouted, "You wouldn't dare! The public will turn against you. They'll call you the destroyer of your own marriage." But Charles slowly turned away from her. His voice remained cold, though filled with sadness. "I chose the crown over a marriage that was already broken long ago." By the next morning, the palace had changed completely. Orders were carried out quietly, but fast. Rebecca and several aides connected to Camilla allegedly lost their positions. Former Elizabeth-era advisors quietly returned to influence, while Sir Robert stepped into a powerful advisory role beside the king. The network Camilla reportedly spent months building collapsed in less than 3 days. Under the explanation of needing rest and privacy, Camilla was quietly moved away from the center of palace operations. According to insiders, she spent most of her time alone, isolated and devastated as everything she fought for disappeared around her. Meanwhile, King Charles reportedly sat alone inside the palace library, watching the sunrise over Buckingham Palace gardens. There was no celebration, no feeling of victory, only exhaustion, heartbreak, and loneliness. He may have protected the monarchy, but according to those closest to him, he also lost the woman he once believed he could never live without. And from that moment forward, insiders claimed the royal family entered an entirely new era, one built not on trust, but on survival, loyalty, and quiet battles hidden behind palace walls. What do you think was really happening behind the walls of Buckingham Palace this entire time? Did King Charles make the right decision by choosing the crown over the woman he spent decades fighting for? Or do you believe Camilla was simply trying to secure her place inside a system that never fully accepted her? Some people believe Charles protected the future of William, Catherine, and the monarchy itself, while others think the palace has always been full of hidden power struggles that the public never gets to see. One thing is clear though, the deeper you look into royal history, the more secrets, rivalries, and quiet betrayals seem to emerge from behind those palace gates. And if even half of these insider claims are true, then the battle for influence inside the royal family may be far from over. So now we want to hear from you. If you were in Charles's position, would you protect the monarchy at all costs, or stand beside the person you love no matter what happened? Drop your thoughts, theories, and opinions in the comments below because this story has people completely divided online right now. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into royal drama, hidden tensions, and shocking palace secrets, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next explosive story. There's always more happening behind closed doors than the public is allowed to see, and we'll be covering every twist, every rumor, and every major royal controversy right here.